All right. Let's dive in. I'm Dan. He's Dan. And we are here bringing you some Week 11 fantasy football insights. The For Frequency Sake Podcast Network is presented by Durham Remodeling, Ryan Allison Tattoo, and Jared Zook Country Financial. For fantasy sake here, presented by Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill. Excited to dive into another epic week here in the NFL, Week 11, as we are getting that final playoff push underway. A lot of teams, and I don't know about you, Dan, but a lot of the leagues that I'm in and the leagues that I'm just kind of seeing from some of my friends and stuff, a lot is really close. Like most of these leagues have maybe one player that's at the top, and then there's a lot jammed into the middle. So there's a big opportunity here for a lot of teams to be able to make that push for some higher seeding.
Yeah, it definitely helps that case with every single star player getting hurt this year.
Yeah,
it seems. I feel like a lot of these guys that drafted McCaffrey, if you had him, you're not worried as much as you are now. But no, this year's been fun because this has probably been the most unpredictable fantasy football season. I mean, a lot of people had Derrick Henry in second round. He's become one of the top running backs this year. Everyone was talking about how early do you draft like a Laporta, Kelsey, and tight ends just haven't done anything.
Yeah, no, it's been a weird year for tight ends, that's for sure. So obviously with Week 11 on the horizon here in just about an hour and a half or so, we've got some buy or sell to start off with here on the show today. The trade deadline coming up for most fantasy leagues here this week, so this is even more pressing as we kind of dive into some of these key questions. Kyler Murray, after having a 4.8-point outing against the Chicago Bears a couple weeks ago, rebounds with a 20-plus point performance this past week. Is Kyler Murray back to being a QB1, especially since he right now sits at, I believe, QB7 on the season? Dan, we'll toss it to you for that.
Yeah, I'll buy into that. I've been making the jokes on the show for weeks now that once Call of Duty comes out, he's gonna start sucking. But given the state of Call of Duty right now, he's probably done and he's back to working. So I think he's got a great opportunity today to really kind of prove himself. Or no, they don't play today, right? Yeah, no, he'll have a great opportunity next week, but it's more of what I wanted to see is what he would do with Marvin Harrison being limited, because eventually some team was going to be able to get enough film on him to say, okay, we're going to shut him down and force him to go to everyone else. And he's been playing great with McBride. The offense seems to be humming. It definitely helps their defense has gotten a little bit lucky in keeping them in games. But yeah, I'll buy in on QB1 for him.
For sure. Yeah. And I think, that kind of adds to the trade deadline talk is with him being on a bye this week, you might have a good opportunity to buy him from, some team that, isn't going to have him this week and maybe, is willing to just pass him off. I agree, especially with the schedule coming up for Kyler Murray. I mean, he's got matchups against Seattle twice, New England, and then like when we're talking about the playoffs, it's New England, Carolina, the Rams. Like that, those are some juicy matchups there for Kyler Murray to exploit, and could really be potentially a league-winning quarterback if you're able to get him on the cheap. Let's go to the running back position here. Talking Kareem Hunt, he's obviously been a fairly bright spot for the Kansas City Chiefs offense that is starting to hum as of late. But Isaiah Pacheco, is set to return, within the next couple of weeks. We don't know the exact timetable for him, but he's going to be back at some point. When Pacheco returns, are we buying that Kareem Hunt is still a valuable asset once Pacheco hits the field?
I want to hold on that one. I think he is, especially like we saw what happened like with Nick Chubb's injury. They kind of had to layer him back in. They gave him a couple more touches. Knowing Andy Reid, I don't think he's going to be putting Pacheco at his normal workload right off the injury, especially since he hasn't played since the first couple of weeks. But we've seen it before. Pacheco will go 99 yards and they would give the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So Kareem could be the touchdown vulture. He could be like the David Montgomery to Jahmyr Gibbs for the Chiefs. I could see if you're running out of options and you need someone that could probably chip in like 5 points, I would say you should keep him if you're at that point in your roster.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with that too. It's injuries happen a lot, and with Isaiah Pacheco returning, we don't know what his workload's necessarily going to be right out of the gate, and we also don't know how healthy he's going to be in general. Kareem Hunt might be a worthwhile stash there, but as you pointed out, it's kind of hard to pinpoint the Kansas City approach because they do have so many weapons that they like to utilize on a day-to-day basis. But that's certainly something that's kind of lukewarm right now. Malik Neighbors, Dan, started off, kind of just, rocketing out of the gates there. Slow week one, but then after that, it was, 18 points, 20 points. And then it's kind of tapered off over the last month. Not a single game with more than 7.1 fantasy points. They're on a bye this week, the New York Giants. Time to kind of regroup. Is Malik Neighbors a sustainable, valuable fantasy asset the rest of the way with Danny Dimes at quarterback?
Not this season, no. I would I'm selling that for 2 reasons. One, during the time Malik Neighbors was out, we saw Danny Jones got a lot more confident in throwing to Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson. As we saw, he's not that accurate outside of 10 yards. So Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be vulturing those little 2-yard screen drag passes. And 2, it's just, you don't know what his decision making is. Like we saw it against Carolina. He had 2 opportunities to throw deep balls that were perfect touchdown plays, and he just hesitated too much. So I want to see what they do out of the break, but I wouldn't trust any, no matter how good Neighbors is, I just wouldn't trust anything involving that New York Giants offense.
Yeah, they are a total toss-up. And, frankly, I think the prospects, if you're in keeper leagues or dynasty leagues, like still very high for Malik Neighbors, especially once the Giants inevitably move off of Daniel Jones, preferably next season. But yeah, I agree. This is a sell for me as well. It's just too much too much downhill signaling from this team, and they've got a brutal schedule ahead too in terms of matchups for wide receivers with Dallas on the horizon, New Orleans, Baltimore. Indy's been feisty as well. That'll be the championship. It's going to be hard to trust Malik Neighbors the rest of the season for sure. Final one here for the buy or sell. Is Brock Bowers the dynasty tight end 1?
Not to me, not while Laporta is still in. I would sell on that because one, he's a rookie. I think it's a little bit of an overhype and like we see sophomore year, they're always going to have some sort of a slump, but we don't know who his quarterback is each week.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. We don't know what kind of quarterback we're getting. So it's, if you think the Raiders are going to go get a quarterback with their first pick and get a top 5 quarterback, then maybe. But as long as Jared Goff is throwing to Laporta and someone is throwing to Hawkinson and Travis Kelce is still in the NFL, I could see if you said he would be a top 3 tight end, but not tight end 1.
Yeah, and I think Trey McBride has a big case to be that too.
Mm-hmm.
With the youth. Obviously, he's been injured early here in his career, but that offense, there's a much more sustainable floor in terms of the volume that you're going to get as a pass catcher, especially currently the number 1 pass catcher for Kyler Murray versus the turmoil that is the Las Vegas Raiders and their quarterback situation and who's getting the targets. Obviously, right now Brock Bowers has been that guy, but again, this week they've got Michael Mayer returning as well, and he's going to have some sort of role. He, when he was healthy earlier in the year, he didn't, demand many targets. So I don't think it's going to eat too much into his workload. But there's something to be said for the price that they paid for Michael Mayer. They're going to try and get him involved somewhat. That's going to take a couple targets potentially from Brock Bowers. I agree. Maybe not the definitive tight end 1. I think the case can be made, but definitely, a top 3 for tight end in dynasty leagues moving forward. So, that kind of wraps up our buy and sell segment here. But, Dan, before we head to our first break here, just wanted to toss out, was there any particular intriguing topic that you wanted to bring forward for the buy or sell? Anything that's been on your mind that you've been seeing people talking about, or maybe something that's been a player that's been a little under the radar in your mind?
So the one that's been stuck in my head is where not really more of a buy or sell, but where do you see with Neighbors if they go to Drew Lock, if they go to Danny DeVito or Tommy DeVito, whatever, Danny DeVito, not Danny DeVito, Tommy DeVito. If they went to Danny DeVito, I would be very impressed. But where do you see Neighbors in that conversation of sustainability for this season if they make that QB change to someone like Drew Lock, who has shown he can play and he can make the smart decisions like we saw in Seattle?
Yeah, and willing to go, big for the deep ball shots, which we've seen Malik Neighbors do very well. All right, on the other side of the break, we will be getting to some ultimate roster game. Always enjoy this game, so we'll see you there on the other side.
For frequency's sake, has you covered on all things sports. From the squared circle to the hardwood and the gridiron to the speedway, we've got something for everyone. Walk down the aisle with the boys from Cards Subject to Change every Sunday as they take a deep dive into everything pro wrestling. Head on over to the hardwood with Doug Green and Watching the W each week for all the news from the WNBA. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your gambling fix? We've got you there. Dan Hancock and Gotham Gambling will help you cover the spread with the Golden Ticket Show. Football more your style? Explore the waters of NFL DFS with DFS Deep Dive with Brian Craighead and Jordan Kernan each week. More into the science portion of the game? The Professor John Bush and Dennis Michelson take you into their science lab and dissect your week in the data lab. Need to know who to start last minute? The network's flagship show, For Fantasy's Sake, is here in a pinch. The fellas come to you live every football Sunday from 10 to 11:30 Central with the week's best DFS, gambling, and lineup advice. And wrap up your Sundays with Joe Winkle and Nick Brinks as they come to you live with educated ignorance, looking at all the day's action. Not enough football on Sunday? Not a problem. Kick your feet up at lunch on Monday and slip into the football lounge with Mark and Dan while they look at the week that was in news, notes, and more. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
All right, we are back. Appreciate everybody watching here. This is For Fantasy's Sake, part of the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. Definitely want to go check out our Facebook page for our Keenan Allen mini helmet raffle, as well as our Facebook, Twitter, and Threads pages for information on how to donate to our Toys for Tots fundraiser, something that we love to do every year here. And this is a great way to give back directly to a cause that is going to benefit kids during this holiday season. It's a great fundraiser, so be sure to go check that out. I know a lot of people are iffy about donating here and there because they think things are going to administrative costs or not entirely sure where all the money's going. In Toys for Tots, this is 100% going towards getting those toys to help benefit kids in the local area. So please go check that out. Help us get to our goal. We're excited to be able to present that to kids here for this holiday season. All right, Dan, time for some ultimate roster game action. And looking forward to this. We lost Dan for the time being, but we're going to throw this up here anyway. All right, so we got Chubb a dub. And of course, that means we're talking Nick Chubb here on For Fantasy's Sake QC. Must have been an NFL teammate of Nick Chubb's in his NFL career. All career stats will count even while on other teams. And you cannot pick Nick Chubb, of course. So for the quarterback here, I think it's pretty obvious. Starting things off, I mean, despite his brutal slate here over the last few years, Deshaun Watson's tenure with the Houston Texans was great. He was a great fantasy quarterback during that time. And since all career stats count, I think we got to go with Deshaun Watson here. So I'm gonna add him up on this list. All right, we got a wide receiver, running back, tight end, and flex. Wide receiver, he's played with OBJ, which that's certainly for his career stats
is probably the guy. I think you could make an argument maybe for Amari Cooper. He's played for a while as well and had some huge seasons, but early career OBJ was definitely a player that you wanted to have. So we're gonna add OBJ in here. And if anyone thinks I'm going astray here, feel free to comment in the comments section and let us know your thoughts as we kind of build this out. Running back, I don't know why, but I'm like kind of blanking on a prominent running back here. We've got Dan back.
Yeah, my internet went out right as the ad break finished. Perfect timing.
That's all right. We worked through the first couple submissions here. So this is teammates of Nick Chubb, all career stats count. So you just had to be a teammate of Nick Chubb's at some point. I put Deshaun Watson for the quarterback because I feel like his years in Houston, he was one of the top fantasy quarterbacks. And I can't think of another. Maybe you could say Joe Flacco just because of the longevity. So maybe Flacco is the one here.
Yeah, I would say Flacco probably because Flacco's played longer and has probably had better career numbers.
That's fair. Let's go Joe Flacco. Wide receiver, OBJ came to mind for me. But is there anyone else that jumps out of the table?
I'm trying to think of like an old player.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to think. Like, was there like a veteran guy that like Jarvis Landry, was there? But
no, I wouldn't say Jarvis Landry because he kind of fell off towards the end of his career. I would say him or Amari.
Yeah, I was thinking Amari too. Like Odell, has like 5 years maybe on Amari.
Yeah. But 2 of those years he was injured.
Yeah. That's a good point. He was injured. Amari had some dominant years with Dallas too. All right, let's go with Amari. We'll go with Amari here. Running back. This was a tough one for me. Kareem Hunt. Was Kareem Hunt on the team when Chubb was there?
Yeah, he was there last year.
Oh yeah, duh. So it's got to be Kareem Hunt, right?
Yeah.
Like unless there was like some like random like third string veteran, like a LaShawn McCoy that came to like play backup or something sometime. Tight end. It's probably
my heart says David Njoku.
Yeah,
but it's probably not right.
Let's go David Njoku. We're gonna try this out, and then flex. So that's an interesting one there.
God, that's the problem. The Browns sucked for so long.
I mean, do we maybe OBJ here then?
I would say we could try OBJ.
Let's go with it. We're going OBJ. All right, we got Flacco, Amari Cooper, Kareem Hunt, David Njoku, and OBJ. I'm sure we're missing some random third string guy at the very end of his career.
There was a 2-year period where this would have been a stud lineup.
Right? Yeah, no kidding. All right, we're going with it. Nice. Crushed.
Killed it.
4 A pluses and an A.
Who needs DJ?
The optimal roster. Austin Hooper. by 100 points.
I was in my head. I was like, "Watch! It's gonna be someone that played like 1 year on the Patriots, like with Tom Brady."
Damn! And Jarvis Landry actually had more than OBJ. Wow! But like barely 39 more points in his career than OBJ. Go figure. There you have it. Fun ultimate roster times there. All right, wait. I'm screwing this all up. There we go. We are back. All right. Be sure to get your questions in for any questions. But yeah, we had Landry and Gordon. Yeah. For frequency's sake, we got our admins on here suggesting Melvin Gordon as an option. But no, it was in fact Kareem Hunt and Jarvis Landry for that running back and flex spot. So interesting there. Be sure if you're watching to get any questions in for Dan or myself. We'll try to get those answered for you as we go through the show, but we've got some more content coming up on the way. We got Flex, Marry, Kill on the horizon, some daily fantasy sports, of course, some betting. We've got a lot of stuff here for you on the other side of this next break, and we'll see you in just a moment.
Serving the Quad Cities area since 1973, and with over 50 years of excellence on their track record, you'll see why it's so easy to trust their experts when it comes to all of your home improvement projects. This family-owned business has you covered on all your needs, Protect your home or building from the elements today and get great roof repair services.
All right, well, that paused for a quick second. We're going to try and run that ad one more time.
Serving the Quad Cities area since 1973. And with over 50 years of excellence on their track record, you'll see why it's so easy to trust their experts when
Durham Remodeling is just a great place for all your remodeling needs, folks. At the 4-second mark, it decides to pause and it doesn't want to keep going. So there we go. Appreciate Durham Remodeling, though, for being a sponsor here.
We're just giving DJ an aneurysm at this point.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, Durham Remodeling. Go there for all of your remodeling needs. All right, flex, marry, kill. We've got an interesting trifecta here to kick things off on our flex, marry, kill here this morning. We got Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, and Audric Estime. Audric Estime jumps up onto the board. An interesting trio there. And I'm just going to say right out of the gate, as the resident Steelers fan here on the For Frequency Sake Podcast Network, it's going to be a tough matchup for Mr. Najee Harris against the best run defense in the league in the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm just going to say that. But, Dan, I'll toss to you. Who are you flexing, who are you marrying, and who are you killing in this?
Hang on, let me leave this.
That's all right. I queued you up here.
Finally.
Be good.
I would say in this case, I'm still killing ETN in this case. Personally, I just don't trust anything this guy's done this year. Their run game is turned into run by committee, and when it's not, it's the Tank Bigsby show. So and especially against the Lions, they're going to get smacked today. But we'll get more into that in the betting segment. But I don't trust them to not be passing today. Estime is slowly getting more touches, so I would say I'm gonna flex Najee. I'll marry Estime, and I'll kill off ETN.
Yeah, no, I think ETN just hasn't shown you anything this year to instill any confidence. Danny's not shut up 3 more times. in a variety of ways, he's got the just running the gamut here. We love it. We love it. Always good for a nice joke call out early in the show this morning.
He's gonna show up hungover right as his segment starts. Joe's gonna show up hungover. What's up, guys?
Hey. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you on the Travis Etienne call there. And the case to be made for Najee is that he has still gotten the vast majority of the share in that backfield for Pittsburgh. And regardless of the matchup, they're going to try and do what they do, which is run the football. So he's going to get his carries. And of course, he gets all the goal line work, which, all you need is for the guy to fall into the end zone to pay off.
Yeah. Imagine if Arthur Smith ran with Bijan like he does with Najee, how good the Falcons would have been last year.
No kidding. Yeah. Utilizing your weapons properly. That's always a good
like your
thing.
top 5 pick, not playing him whatsoever.
Before we do move on to the next trio, I do want to ask you about Estime. Like, what are the prospects for this guy? Because, coming into the year, it was like, are we finally going to get Javonte Williams performing as like the lead back? And we know he's a talented guy, and he's had his games this year. But now we got Audric Estime coming in, Sean Payton now kind of having his way with his system and a rookie quarterback. Like, do we think Estime takes over this role entirely if he hasn't kind of already?
I would say I think this year they're just going to. I mean, he had a great couple like weeks back to back. I mean, 53 yards against the Chiefs is no real slouch, especially as good as their run defense is.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, his touches this year have went from like 2 a game. This was his only game over 15 or over 5, rush attempts this season. So I think they're going to stay in
the hot hand approach.
Yeah, I think they're going to stay in the running back by committee probably for the rest of the year, and then they're going to look at like who gets the least amount of cap hit between Javonte and Jaleel McLaughlin. I mean, we kind of saw it last year. You remember it was Javonte, Jaleel, and what's his name that's now in Kansas City is like a third string back. Anyway, but like they kind of, I think it was P. Ryan.
Samaje P. Ryan. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they just kind of keep going in this running back by committee until they have a for sure running back. So I like him. I think he's gonna be a good player, but I'm staying away from him until I know for sure who their running back is in that team.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair. And, DJ makes a good point here as well. Peyton did draft Estime. He's his guy. So, maybe sooner rather than later, Peyton will want to get him in there. We all know Peyton or Sean Payton doesn't yield to anybody. So he's going to do what he wants to do. That's for sure. All right, let's go to our next flex, marry, kill here. We got Jawan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, and Josh Downs, a grouping of, number 2/number 3 receivers on their respective teams that have had some big games this year. Who are we going with for this group? Jawan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, Josh Downs.
So, my kill is the problem.
Yeah,
I know.
You don't really want to kill any of these guys.
I'm flexing Shakir here. I'm putting him in my flex because I think this is one of those games. We saw it with Gabe Davis, where the wide receiver that you're not game planning for the Bills always plays good against the Chiefs. Like we saw it whenever he would play the Chiefs or the Bengals, he would just magically go off for like 100 yards.
Yeah.
And now that they got Cooper, they know who the number 1 target is. Shakir should get a decent amount of targets today, so I'm liking him. I'm gonna marry Jennings just because I know he's good for at least one deep ball. He's good for at least one trick play or something like that. But with Downs with Richardson, I don't trust it against the Jets 100%. Defense.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. I mean, Joe Flacco, I think a lot of people were wondering if Joe Flacco knew that he was allowed to throw to Michael Pittman over the last few weeks because Josh Downs was the guy pretty much every single passing down. But with Anthony Richardson, we haven't seen production really from any of the wide receivers on this team. If production across the board has dropped, it's just too volatile right now to trust an Anthony Richardson-led offense. And so this is kind of a wait till you see it kind of thing. I agree, though. You probably don't have, in some deeper leagues, Josh Downs might be your best bet for, your flex spot or things like that. But if you're in like a smaller league, a 10-team, 12-team, there might be better options there to include in your lineup. So I agree with that. And Jawan Jennings, as you said, with Ayuk out, there's going to be opportunity. And with that great Kansas City Chiefs front, it's going to force the Buffalo Bills to get the ball out quicker. And that benefits Khalil Shakir more than anybody else because he's able to get those underneath routes down pat. So definitely agree with you on that one.
I feel like Downs is that guy that you put him in your like DFS lineup and he gets the first catch of the game for like 22 yards. And then you don't hear his name again until the fourth quarter, and it's a 2-yard screen route, and that's like it the whole day.
Yeah, you're like, feeling great early on, and then
you don't play him, and he's 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, or he gets 1 target at the beginning of the game, and they stop him.
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel about Jordan Addison, to be honest with you. Although he's been even less productive this season, but similar where like one play can make it for you, or they could just be totally absent the entire game. Let's get to our next grouping here. Cortland Sutton, J.K. Dobbins, or DeAndre Hopkins. An interesting grouping here. We got 1 running back, 2 wide receivers. Cortland Sutton has been the go-to wide receiver here for Mr. Bo Nix. And I believe, and check the rankings really quick here for PPR scoring. Cortland Sutton, I think, is like the wide receiver 16 on the season. He is, almost quietly had a really, really good year.
Well, it's because no one 16. Cares about Denver. That's the thing. Denver always like when they're they're that one team whenever they're rebuilding, no one really pays attention to them, and then they just unless you're like really deep into fantasy or you're a Broncos fan. But I'll flex Cortland Sutton. I'll marry Hopkins because no matter what, it's Mahomes. If he gets a connection with someone, it's over. I'm gonna kill Dobbins in this situation just because Harbaugh has realized his quarterback has a good arm. It took him like 6 weeks, but they're throwing the ball a lot more, and they had 3 running backs get good touches last week. So Dobbins is good for a little, like, at least like a 1-yard touchdown run, but I'll trust the receivers here.
Yeah, my initial gut instinct, it was between JK and DeAndre who I was going to kill. I think I agree with you ultimately. My initial instinct was to put JK in that spot just because the Bengals defense as a whole is just brutal. But on the flip side, like, this is probably going to be a shootout. The Bengals offense is incredible, and I know the Chargers defense has been good, but nobody's been able to stop Joe Burrow lately. This might be, as you mentioned, Jim Harbaugh giving Justin Herbert the green light to continue to attack this.
Yeah, as bad as the Bengals' run defense has been, their pass defense has been worse. And we've seen from multiple teams, like, unless you have a Derrick Henry in the backfield, the best way to beat the Bengals is to air it out.
Yep.
So
Yeah. And what's potentially even going to be more of a shootout could be the Bills and Chiefs. So DeAndre Hopkins might get those opportunities early and often, and he'll be probably the goal line fade guy for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, our last grouping here, we got Keenan Allen, Jaylen Warren, or Jordan Addison. Keenan Allen's got a matchup with Green Bay. Jaylen Warren against the Baltimore Ravens, which I need to check because he popped up as a last minute questionable tag late Friday, and he may not play, but I think the latest is still that he's just questionable. So let's say he plays. We'll put him in here against the tough Baltimore Ravens defense. But if the Steelers have to pass a lot, that's Jaylen Warren's game, or Jordan Addison, who's been really tough to predict throughout the year for sure.
So I'll flex Warren just because, like you said, he is their receiving back, and even when they're not throwing, he still gets a decent amount of carries. And I think if they're shutting down Harris, they're going to find other ways to get both of them involved. So I think they'll probably rotate a little more than normal today. I'm going to marry Addison. The hard thing for me with him is that this is the number one pass defense in football. Granted, half their teams' games have been getting blown out so much that the other teams are running the ball all the time. But this is a really good pass defense in Tennessee. And especially with Hawkinson back, I think that drops him down a bit. But I still trust him today. I feel like this could be one of those games where to keep it close, they just have to shut down Jefferson at any possible way. So I'll trust him for, maybe a couple catches, maybe like a touchdown and like 2 catches kind of game. But Keenan Allen has just been non-existent in this offense. Maybe it's because I'm not a Bears fan. I'm not from the Midwest. I don't really follow them as well as everyone else here. But I have not heard Keenan Allen's name but like 3 times this year. And it was brought in to be such a good deal. And then, it's, you don't know. They're not throwing.
I totally agree with you. They're not finding Keenan Allen. He's had a couple games this year where it's been like, okay, those are the Keenan Allen games. Outside of those like 2 to 3 outliers, it's been pretty much non-existent. And as we've seen over the last, month, the Bears offense has been pretty brutal. The only wide receiver that's really had consistent target share here has been Rome Odunze, the rookie to rookie connection with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. I think, look, if you're Tennessee, as you mentioned, like you got to do, it's easier said than done, but you got to do everything you can to shut down Justin Jefferson. He's the guy that you do not want to beat you. So that's going to open up potentially room there for Hawkinson and Jordan Addison. Jaylen Warren is playing. I just got word here. He is playing today. So I think that'll be a good a pick there for your flex. Kind of a sleeper option potentially in DFS as well. And then Keenan Allen, we're kicking him to the curb until we get some consistency there. You just can't really roll the dice on a Bears wide receiver, let alone Keenan Allen being that one. So and as we mentioned, get those questions in throughout the show. We will be sure to answer them and get them up on the board here to help you set your lineups for this week 11. Coming up, we've got some daily fantasy football on some revenge games, birthday games, some good talk here coming up in just a moment.
When you're working to achieve your financial goals, it helps to have some trusted guidance along the way. Jared Zook with Country Financial is here to help you identify your goals, and provide more support to work through any changes life may bring. As both a financial advisor of Country Trust Bank and registered representative of Country Capital Management Company.
Were those ads playing for you, or was it just pausing on my end?
No, it's like doing the same thing over here. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. It's 4 seconds in. It's always at the 4-second mark. It just shuts down. But Jared Zook, appreciate you once
Great
again.
guy.
Country Financial. Great guy. Great dude. Let's get a round of applause for Jared. Appreciate the support here on the show. And at least we were able to get his face out there. Some FaceTime here on the show. That's always good.
The next ad break, let me try to hit it and see what it does.
Yeah, okay, for sure.
On your end.
Yeah. I'll let you take over the reins there next go around for sure. We don't have Brian here today, so I don't know how much if we're gonna get into DFS at all. Do you have any DFS hot takes or anything that you want to add on that front?
So my big one, I'm curious your opinion on this. So a lot of the expected stats and a lot of the luck stuff showing Darnold having, like, it seems like his Cinderella run's kind of slowing down a bit. Do you still think he's a valid pair with Jefferson this late in the season?
I'm kind of out on Darnold. And it's just like the one saving grace for Darnold has been like he's had somewhat of a floor in terms of like rushing. Like he can get you like 30 yards on the ground and potentially get you a rushing touchdown that could help salvage your season or your week. But he's got the Bears defense coming up twice in the next month. He's got the Tennessee defense that you pointed out is really good against the pass. The Cardinals have been pretty decent. And then, it's on the road at Seattle late in the year. Then they got the Packers. Like there's some tough matchups here for Sam Darnold. And I just think there's way better options out there that you can, feel comfortable with going from week to week. I had him in a guillotine league and he was like crushing it for me early parts of the year. But I almost like got ousted last week. I made it through by 0.3 points somehow. But Darnold's, 4-point outing crushed me. I just don't think you could trust him anymore moving forward. I mean, do you kind of feel that way too? Like he is a good stack, no doubt. But really, I don't think this is the matchup to do it with.
No, definitely not. I think long term, I'm definitely saying no too. They have a bunch of big games coming up. I don't see any of these being like great matchups for him.
Yeah.
And it just, like I said, like after like week 3, when he had that great game, I was just like, okay, when's the other shoe gonna fall? When it like he's on this meteoric soar that doesn't look anything like what he's normally done, good or bad. And I mean, 5 interceptions in the last 2 games while he's got some of the like most time in the pocket this season out of any quarterback is a big thing. So I feel like that Lions loss kind of dropped him down a bit and he's spiraling. I think this is a good get back spot, but I mean, he's got the Bears next week. He's got to play the Bears twice, the Lions one more time, the Cardinals and the Falcons, who have some pretty solid pass defenses. So yeah. I think I'm out on him. I think so I'm curious now because especially I know Brian's always big thing was pairings. With Zay Flowers and Lamar being at the top of the list for wide receivers and quarterbacks this week, do you think that's worth the extra money on the pair this week?
Yeah. I think I would go for that. I see a lot of volume coming there. And when it comes to like Zay Flowers in this matchup, I just think that this is probably going to go a little bit differently than years past. Like the Steelers-Ravens matchups have always been obviously super close, but not just close, but like low scoring. They've been 17-14, 20-16, like stuff like that. I don't think the Ravens this year are built like they have been in the past, and the Steelers are the same way. Steelers have a way better offense that they've had in recent years, and the Ravens offense has been lights out, on a historic pace. Meanwhile, their defense has struggled considerably. So I think this matchup is actually going to be way more high scoring than most of the matchups. Still probably going to be close, but I think that's going to, lend itself to a big Lamar Jackson day, to a big Zay Flowers day, and probably Derrick Henry. I think all of these guys are going to have an opportunity to feast. I would trust that, even if you have to, pay up just a little bit for this one, because I trust that matchup and I trust that stack a lot.
So, and there's one more I was looking at just because. So my personal theory is you never trust a team the second game after they fired their coach or they had a quarterback, like a major change in their roster. With the Saints having a rough defense, getting rid of Lattimore, and now having to face Cleveland, is Winston and Tillman a stack you might look at?
Winston and Tillman is interesting. I mean, Tillman's been really, really good in recent weeks, and I mean he's been he was the hot waiver wire ad just a few weeks ago. I personally don't know if I mean, Jameis's price is so enticing that maybe I would be tempted to go with that stack. But you got to understand like the volatility there. Yes, they'll be passing a lot. I think Tillman probably has a big game, but I could also easily see Jameis Winston throwing 3 interceptions this game. He's not going to get you anything on the ground. So the stack is nice from a perspective of we think Tillman's going to benefit, which in turn gets you those more points from Jameis. I would pump the brakes on that stack. I think there's other stacks to target that can still be like relatively cheap. Like I would go with the Darnold Jefferson over Jameis Tillman this week personally, just because I think the floor for Jameis is significantly low this upcoming week against the Saints. Meanwhile, like I think the Saints are a pretty motivated group right now, and their defense, that is not as bad as some may think. So that's just my instant thought. What about you?
I like it mainly because from at least from a betting perspective, I think Tillman is getting a lot more appreciation than he has in recent weeks. I've seen his touchdown line where the amount of targets he's getting, it should be closer to like plus like 200. You could still get it at plus 300. I think the problem is with Jerry Jeudy on the team, that's always your number one target. But since Winston has come in, hang on, I had the stat up here just a second. My internet never wants to work when I need it. Since with Winston as quarterback this season, he's had 81-yard game, 99-yard game, 75-yard game. And he's had 32 targets in 3 games, almost 11 targets per game from him. They've clearly formed a connection. So I think if you're doing a PPR league and you have one of these two, I think it's worth a try. The other one I would look at is, and if you're just like, I want to go all in on running backs and I'll live and die with this guy as my quarterback, it's going Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Myers. That seems to be his number one target outside of Brock Bowers. I think a lot of people were on Brock Bowers last week, and he did not come through as much as everyone expected. So I'll kind of trust Jacoby here for another like low value stack.
I think that's a really good, and I think I think they had their bye week last week. Like it's been a couple weeks since he has produced. He may be like, flying under the radar as well, because Jacoby Myers has been a pretty solid fantasy play throughout the season. And I agree. That's definitely seems to be Gardner Minshew's guy for sure.
And for tight ends, are you buying up to the high value, or like, is this another week where you kind of just take your top player and go from there? Or because you got like Taysom Hill, Kelsey, Bowers, and then you could drop down in the 5,000 range and you could get Hunter Henry against a Rams team who hasn't done the best against tight ends. You got Freiermuth, who always seems to kind of get involved with the offense, or you can get Jonnu Smith, who I've been high on Jonnu Smith since he was in Atlanta, and he killed me with every time I bet Kyle Pitts because I trusted him.
Yeah. No, 2 names come to mind for me when I think of it. And you mentioned one of them there, Pat Freiermuth. We have been waiting all season long for Pat to get involved in this offense the way that, I felt that he should have been involved. Obviously, the middle of the field isn't Russell Wilson's game, and that's where Pat Freiermuth lives, so that's always going to be tough. But given the opportunity against such a poor pass defense in the Ravens, given that I think it's going to be much more high scoring, and that I think the Ravens are going to pay a lot of attention to George Pickens to make sure they don't get beat by him, that is going to open up things here. And it's not like they have a wealth of talent at the skill position players. I think this could be the Pat Freiermuth breakout game. And so I think that's like a super great value there, especially like at home. Like Muth always seems to like thrive off of the home crowd. Obviously, they have like their chant for him and everything. So I think that plays a factor into it. And then the other name for me, which like I think you could, I don't know the actual price here, but I think you could probably get for like dirt cheap, would be AJ Barner, who has fully become Geno Smith's like go-to tight end over the Noah Fants of the world. AJ Barner coming off of I believe a 6-catch game last week. And the rookie's kind of, getting into the good graces there with Geno Smith. I think he could be one of those like low-key quality options if you're really looking for value at the tight end position, especially with a road game against the 49ers. We expect this to be, they're going to have to air it out a little bit here to keep pace with that 49ers offense. So I expect AJ Barner to, have one of those interesting sleeper type games. But again, with the tight end position, this is one largely where you probably do want to target those top options just because it's been so void of opportunities throughout this year. But if you are looking for some value, I think Freiermuth, and then even more value, AJ Barner.
Yeah, I like Barner. I'm looking at he was in 91% of the snaps last week.
Yeah,
with Fant out, Fant's been ruled out again, so you can kind of expect a similar role for him. For me, my big sleeper one on this is gonna be Jonnu, mainly because the Raiders have actually been solid against the pass this year. But the one area they have struggled is to tight ends. Tight ends are getting the 4th most receptions and the 4th most yards. They're getting 60 yards per game. And I believe it was, 6 catches per game from tight ends this season. That alone right there, especially, he's so sneaky in that offense. And that's the main reason why I think he's going to have a good game. I think he's projected to go over all his lines. And Vegas, the last 3 tight ends they've played, take a look at this. Gesicki, 5 catches, and his line was 3.5. Noah Gray had 3 catches. Travis Kelce had 10. Freiermuth had 2. And then from there, you got Tommy Tremble had 3. Mark Andrews had 4. So they've slowly been getting killed by tight ends this season, in a season where tight ends have not been the main targets.
Yeah,
like we've seen or at least has not had the same amount of targets as we normally see. So given the fact that the last 2 games to tight ends 1 and 2 combined, they've given up 6 catches per game. I could see Jonnu Smith at least giving you like at least 3 catches and 20 yards. And I feel like he's their touchdown threat that no one talks about, because you always wait for the trick play to Tyreek. You always wait for the A-chain run, the Mostert run, or the pass to Waddle. And then every time I see him catch a pass in the end zone, he's wide open. So it's worth a look.
It's true. No, they've looked his way a lot this year, and I do think he's one of those that kind of flies under the radar. We're going to welcome Nick Brinks into the show. Nick, how's it going, man?
Hey, it's good to be here. I saw you guys were flying one-on-one, so I thought, hey, I'll hop in and say hi.
Hey,
yeah, you missed it. I've been on here like 4 times today.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, Dan's been on in a variety of ways with different backgrounds. We've got the phone, we've got the laptop. Exciting stuff. Always keeping us on our toes. But appreciate you diving in. We were talking some DFS here, and then kind of we're going to get into some like revenge games potentially on the docket and things like that. But was there anything that kind of jumped out to you in terms of any daily fantasy plays or just fantasy plays this week in general that might pop out or be a sleeper pick?
So I'm in one recurring weekly DFS league, and I was putting my roster together last night, and I kind of like the Russell Wilson stack with George Pickens today. Feels like an enticing one.
Yeah.
I'm throwing Calvin Ridley in. He had a really good week last week. I'm just kind of, hoping I can push another week of that into existence. I may fall flat on my face with that one, but I'm hoping to take advantage of the price a little bit. And then I'm taking the Bears defense against the Packers. They are known to throw the Jordan Love pick 6 lately. So even if the Packers continue to own the Bears without Aaron Rodgers, I think the defense can maybe still do okay. The defense is still the bright spot on that team. The very few and far between bright spots, as Joe Winkle would surely talk about. But those were just a few of the plays that I threw in for today. Just curious if you guys like any of that. Don't like it. I've got Achane and Hunt as well as my running backs. Just some of the guys that I like matchups for and stuff like that.
So my only criticism is Ridley. I think he's due for a bad week. Then again, last time me and you disagreed on a Titans player. I told you not to take Will Levis to throw an interception, and he threw it on like the second play of the game. But the Vikings are the most blitz-heavy team in football, and Will Levis has shown he cannot play with pressure on him. So if he does, I would say this is a Tony Pollard reception game. If anything, maybe a Chig Okonkwo little 2-yard curl routes. But I think they got Ridley enough targets that he kind of shut up and stopped complaining. But this, as bad as this defense is, it's not just about how bad the defense is. It's about how bad the Tennessee offensive line is. And I think they're going to be forced to pass. And I think my prediction is Levis is going to have such a bad game. Rudolph's going to come back in.
Well, you have convinced me. I have found Cortland Sutton is a little cheaper, and he plays the Atlanta.
That's crazy.
Today. So I'm going to take Cortland Sutton and throw him in.
Yeah. I'm like 2-2 on my predictions to Nick in the last 2 seasons, where I've like argued a play with him.
Hey,
I liked your.
If it pans out, I will thank you dearly.
I liked your Russell Wilson Pickens stack. I also think Russell Wilson and Freiermuth could be a stack there too because of how cheap Freiermuth is. And I think this could be a big week for him. But I do think that regardless of the Ravens almost surely giving most of their attention to Pickens, he's that talented and that good, and their secondary's that bad to where I still think that he's going to be able to have a pretty big game. And all it's going to take is one big play to Mike Williams for them to have to kind of overcorrect a little bit and start paying attention to other players. So yeah, I like that stack. But also Freiermuth could be a sneaky play at tight end this week.
We need a league where like you get extra points if the catch is like insane. Because I feel like Pickens is going to have 2 catches, but it's going to be like a one-hander over 2 defenders. And then he stiff arms.
And also maybe enter like a body slam bonus could be nice. I think Pickens will surely give you a body slam or 2.
You gain an extra point every time Pickens does something completely unnecessary while the play is live.
This may be we got a couple viewer comments here. This may be more related to betting, but I think this could also inform on a play for this week in terms of Khalil Shakir. So Lydia asks, do we think Khalil Shakir is going to get 4+ receptions this upcoming week? Because if we think he is, I also think that probably makes him a pretty decent DFS play and just decent play in general. Dan, I know we talked about this earlier today on him being a good play against this, Chiefs matchup where we think that they're going to be passing a lot. So from my perspective, I would take Khalil Shakir over. If it's 4+, then yes. If it's 4.5, then yes. I'm taking either one of those.
Yeah, she asked me this earlier too. That's the funny thing. That's my fiance.
And don't
okay, nice,
right? Yeah, Lydia is our resident. She'll ask me a question and then she'll ask again on the show. She doesn't trust my answer.
I like it. Hey, yeah, we got to test to make sure that you're staying true.
Bro, 5 a.m, she had me doing her roster changes for her.
That's dedication, man. She wants to make sure she's out on top of it. Who's up at 5 a.m. making moves?
It was between Curtis Samuel and Keenan Allen, so it wasn't like a big, tough decision.
Fair.
I think.
Can you just
no,
take the
I think
L?
for, huh?
Can you just take the L?
No, I made her pick up. Who was it? I tried to make her pick up Hunter Henry, and it didn't go through because someone had dropped him like the night before.
Oh,
she had to wait till Wednesday, and she was mad because she was trying to add him for like a good, like, I want to say 20 minutes before it went through. Who did I make her add? I made her add Mike Williams. That's who it was.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
and I had her pick up Laporta just as an option in case he comes back in the next couple.
Now,
weeks.
where did Mike get traded to again?
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
he ran the right
first
route.
play as a Steeler last.
He ran the right
route. The touchdown. Yeah. He ran the right route. Yeah. The red line.
I think he gets 4. I think he gets 4.
Yeah.
If I think with his speed, they're gonna at
4
least
exactly, or you think he at least gets 4?
Listen, if it's 4+, he's got to get 4. That's a minimum.
True.
So so it's the same as over 3.5. So I'll trust him to get 4. Like I said,
do you think with Kincaid out today, that could help too?
Yeah, I think with Kincaid out, and they're gonna focus a lot on Cooper today.
Which also that might make Knox a pretty solid DFS play because he's got to be super cheap, I would think.
Yeah, 3,500. I considered it too.
Yeah,
I got room for him or Jonnu Smith. I'm trying to go back and forth.
We were just talking about Jonnu Smith. I just
bring up Jonnu Smith's name around Dan here, right?
Before he added you in, I was literally talking about Jonnu Smith. I think he's a great play today. The Raiders give up the 4th most receptions to tight ends this year, and like I was saying, like I feel like every time he does something, he's wide open because everyone's focusing so much on Waddle, A-Chain, and him.
Which makes no sense for the Raiders. They have to play against a really good tight end in practice all week. You think that would maybe be the one position they could be good against?
Why do you think Brock Bowers looks so good? And when people are watching the training camps, they can't guard up the middle.
We'll get to one more here from Dominic. Full PPR question. DJ Moore versus the Packers or Jerry Jeudy versus the Saints? Which is hilarious, like that this is actually like a decent question, because at the beginning of the season, if you said that this was being posed, you'd be like, is this serious? But no, DJ Moore has had some pretty rough weeks here. Jerry Jeudy has had some really good ones as of late. So yeah, I'll toss it to the panel here. What are we thinking, guys?
This is where we need Joe. Joe would have went on a 20-minute rant. I'll go DJ Moore here. I think like I was saying, I said a couple weeks ago, the first week after a major change, whether it's coordinator, coach, quarterback, they always seem to play better. The one thing that people were showing was that Waldron was only letting Moore run streaks. So I think with a new offensive coordinator, they're going to be a little bit more, they'll be a little bit more creative with their routes with him. And I think this is just as bad as the Packers passing D has been. And considering Odunze has been the number 1 target, I think we're going to see Jair Alexander, if he plays this week, on Odunze, which is going to lead to more touches for Moore.
Yeah, I think I like Moore here too. If there's going to be a get right spot, new offense, some new play caller and all that stuff, and like you said, the Packers defense leaves a little to be desired in the passing game. If it's not today, I think maybe we put the nail in the 2024 coffin for this Bears offense and DJ Moore especially.
No, I agree with you there, and I agree with Andrew here that maybe the team will be revitalized. To your point, Nick, like a new offense, maybe this is where they get that spark that they need. I mean, it's Packers week. Come on. You got to get right. I don't think most of us probably don't anticipate that the Bears are winning this football game. But yeah, I think when in the question of DJ Moore versus Jerry Jeudy, if it's even close to being a push, then I'm going DJ Moore because the talent. It's just he's way more talented, and he has the yak that he can make a big play out of nothing. I just trust that a little bit more, despite the better overall matchup for Jerry Jeudy against the New Orleans Saints. All right. Let's head to break and we'll get into some revenge games, some over-unders, some birthday games over-unders on the other side of this break. But Dan, I'll let you run this next promo here and we'll see if we can get that one in.
My name's Ryan Allison. I've spent over a decade immersed in the art of tattooing. Sharply honing my skills has materialized into a diverse and prestigious body of work. Each tattoo reflects my relentless pursuit of excellence, and every client I work with is a living embodiment of that unwavering commitment. I will gladly and wholeheartedly embrace your distinct vision.
All right, well, F me, right? That worked for you. So you're going to be our ads guy moving forward here. But yeah, thank you to Ryan Allison for his sponsorship here on the For Frequency Sake Podcast Network. And you are watching For Fantasy Sake QC. We've got a couple more things to get to here before we wrap up the show ahead of Week 11 matchups today. So if you're watching, if you have some lineup questions, be sure to submit them, and we'll get to them here in our panel discussion with Dan and with Nick. We got a couple interesting revenge games coming up and a couple over-under. So let's talk about, some potential interesting bets that can be placed this week. So we got Deontay Johnson in his revenge game here against Pittsburgh after being traded to the Panthers and now the Baltimore Ravens. He hasn't really done much at all. So his over-under is at 12.5 rushing plus receiving yards. Where we got this one at, this is a tough one to place, I think, but maybe not. Maybe it's actually a pretty easy one. I don't know.
A sharp bettor would stay away from it. A bettor who wants to have fun would take the over here. Not because of the revenge game tactic, but I feel like there's always that lull in like the 10-minute mark of the second quarter and then like the 10-minute mark of the third quarter where you always see a trick play somewhere. And I feel like that's where we'll just see like, oh, hey, we're going to do like Deontay Johnson's going to go deep and we're going to have everyone else run short. They're going to forget he's there. Something like that. I think they're going to pull all the stops out this week. I think this is kind of the game to prove if the Ravens are serious or not just, okay, they beat the Bills. They lost to the Chiefs on that questionable call. Can they keep a good game again against the Steelers team who is actually playing hot right now?
I'm looking at some props for him, and I think the interesting thing here is there is quite a variety of lines you can get for him. Like I'm finding a pretty nice a middle ground here where you could take both. Deontay Johnson's he's over 12.5 or 12.5 at Bet 365, under 16.5 at Bet Rivers. You get 4 whole yards where you might be able to hit a middle. That's kind of tempting. So look around. If this is a bet that you want to make sure you just look for the right book. Don't just settle. I mean, that you should do that no matter what. Everybody that has sports betting, you have all kinds of books, all kinds of apps. Make sure you're getting good lines. But when the line is 12.5 or 16.5, depending on the book, like you can have some fun with that.
Yeah, I'm seeing 11
I don't really have an answer, but I think I would lean over 12.5, but I'm not taking over 16.5 when the rest of the market is like 12.5. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I would take the over as well. And I think the only revenge aspect, I don't think he's going to go off. I don't think any of that, but I think the revenge aspect, a lot of teams, when they get a new guy in, want to get them involved when they've got a revenge game on the horizon, because they just want to get them amped up and maybe like give them that opportunity that they think they want. So I could see the Ravens dialing up a couple targets to him just to try and get him involved in the offense for one, and say like, hey, yeah, that's pretty cool. You got, a catch against your former team or something like that. So because we don't even know how involved he's going to be really, given the weapons that they have. But I think this is a game where you can at least bet that he'll probably get like 2 targets. And so with that, I think that's a decent play. The big question is, does he get a 15-yard catch and then do what Deontay Johnson does, which is run backwards to try and make a bigger play out of it and then screw you over on that one catch? That could be in play as well.
He's going to make like a 15-yard catch and try to like tip drill it to someone and it's not going to count.
Exactly. Or do what like Jalen Waddle did, was that last week or the week before, where he totally screwed people over on that final play of the game where he ran backwards 30 yards, and got, minus 3 points. I know some people that got royally screwed over on that one play.
I remember
a couple weeks ago, Tua lost a bunch of yards on the last pitchy woo play too, and went.
I think that was it. I think that was the same one.
Yeah. So here's the thing with those plays, they give the yardage to whoever gets tackled in terms of betting. So I remember there was someone who on one of those plays, he had, I think it was Jacoby Myers, like over 50 rush plus receiving yards. And because he caught the ball and he was the one that got tackled 12 yards behind the line, he finished at 49 after he took it all off. And the dude was like trying to call every single customer service number he could, try to prove that shouldn't have counted.
Well, and a lot of times those last second laterals are being done by like linemen and stuff that make terrible throws. And if it's a bad throw and the guy misses it, that's his fumble too.
The rush plus receive, like those combos are so horrible for football. Like I remember I took Kenny Pickett's like under for his rush plus receiving yards one game. And he was over passing by 1 yard, but he kneeled the ball. He did one of those, like, I'm going to run 3 yards back and then kneel it. And it cashed for me. And I was so hyped.
Those are brutal. Those will get you. Jameis Winston plays the New Orleans Saints. I got to guess a bit of a revenge game here for him, too. The over-under on this one is 242.5 passing yards for Jameis Winston. Do we think he gets there in this matchup against the lowly Saints?
I'll give it to him. I think it's an over. I was telling you earlier, I think Cedric Tillman's going to have a big game today. They just traded away their one of their best secondary players, if you can put big quotation marks around that, the way he's played this year. I think they're beating a division rival first game with the new coach. I think this is a good letdown spot for the Saints.
Yeah, I think this is pretty attainable. I don't know how much of a revenge factor it is, but it's always fun to spice it up a little.
He was pretty upset
when they didn't Tampa. That'd be more.
Well, he was pretty upset because he shown he was like capable of being the QB1 if they were rebuilding, and then they went and got Derek Carr.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. It's fair. Probably felt a little snubbed there. We got a couple birthday games, some players that had their birthdays this week, 11. Dawson Knox, one of them. We did talk about him a little bit in the last segment. The over-under for him, with the news that Kincaid is out, is 29.5 receiving yards. It's kind of a tough one. I think, personally, I'm probably taking the over, mainly because of the fact that I truly do think this is going to be, a high-scoring game between the two. I think this is like a game where like the Chiefs offense kind of like opens up and meets the demands of what the Bills are going to present, and because of that, there's only so many targets to go around, and in an offense with a lot of kind of like younger or more newer type of players, with Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman's obviously out, Khalil Shakir's just more so this year been a wide receiver 2 for the team, but Dawson Knox is that guy that's been there from the beginning for Josh Allen. So I feel like that security blanket there, this is an opportunity for Dawson Knox to get 45, 50 yards receiving, probably catch like a goal line touchdown or something like that.
Yeah, he feels like a guy that could sneak in a score today.
Yeah, and this was you got to remember when he was a rookie, his first year, he was a top target for the team. And then they just happened to go out and draft another tight end as a rookie that became their top target. This is a good game for him, especially like we were saying, they're going to really try to shut down Josh Allen, but this game is going to be a gunfight.
Yep. Yeah, I would take the over with Dawson Knox on this one. Caleb Williams, his birthday's on Monday. His over-under has had 193.5 passing yards. Brutal line. But hey, it's been pretty rough going so far for the rookie quarterback. But rivalry game where they're probably going to have to air it out a little bit. I don't know. What are we thinking here?
I'm taking the under.
It's
going
to be a rough day for Caleb, huh?
Yeah. If Tyson Bagent was in, maybe I'd take the over.
Those.
Has any team seen more lower passing yardage totals than the Bears in the last 3 years? I mean, there were some super low numbers for Justin Fields over the years, too. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the only team that could contend with that would maybe be the Raiders. I don't know, like what their lines have been like.
Someone on Twitter the other day said, "I'm sure we could bring in 40-year-old Jay Cutler and he could outthrow Caleb Williams right now."
Oh yeah, dude, he's still got the arm. I guarantee it.
With a cig in his mouth and everything mid-play.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Bears are +6 also in this game. Like, are you staying away from that or like? Because my thought is I doubt this is going to be like close one way unless the Bears win. The Bears win, I could see it being close, but then that +6 is that's baked in. But if you're picking the Bears to lose by like 3 or 4, I don't know if I'm feeling comfortable with that.
Yeah, that is not a spread that I feel comfortable on the plus side for sure. I don't really feel like I would take Packers. Like, that's just one I want to avoid myself.
Just stay away from.
So, yeah, I have a play on that, but I'll get into that after the ad break on my gambling segment. I have a very good play for that.
Awesome. Well, it's a perfect segue because that wraps up the birthday games and kind of the revenge game aspect. So let's dive into it. Let's dive into some gambling plays of the week.
Yeah, so we got so since normally, Joe talks for 30 minutes and then I get my 2 minutes to spew out one play.
This is your time. Seize the moment.
Oh my God, I'm panicking. No, but today I'm going to give out some of my VIP plays as well. So if you guys don't know, you guys can follow me over on Twitter, Gotham Gambling, but we are partnered with Moneyline Go, one of the best betting marketplaces on the internet right now, with hundreds of pro bettors posting plays for free. So you can always check me out there as well. I'm going to start with my play of the day. It's plus money. I don't understand why it's plus money. Detroit Lions first half -7.5. Dan Campbell has been one of the best anytime spread against the spread coaches in NFL in his career. The spread for the game is 14. The last time we trusted a team to absolutely beat the snot out of the Jaguars was the Eagles, and then they gave up 20 unnecessary points at the end of the game. The Lions are 7-2 in the first half straight up this season and 6-3 when covering a 7-point spread. The Jaguars have been absolutely abysmal, but the main reason I'm taking this is, and this sounds like a fake stat, in the second quarter alone this season, the Detroit Lions are averaging 18.7 points per game in the second quarter. And the Jaguars have given up 15 points per game in the second quarter and have only scored 7 points in the first half on average per game this year. So the second quarter alone, I'm expecting a absolute blowout. And it's mainly because if you've seen anyone play the Lions, they are hard to play. They will tire you out. So these teams go through one quarter and then just get stomped. So I think they're going to cover a 14-point spread, but I'd rather take plus money for them to win by at least a touchdown or more than a touchdown going into the first half. So that's my play of the day. We got my favorite parlay today is I took CMC and Jonathan Taylor both to get 70+ rushing yards on DraftKings right now. That is plus 120. So you get a little more than double your money for that one. The main reason I like that one, Jonathan Taylor has had 6 games against the Jets in his career. 4 of them, he's had 140 yards or more. So they have not been able to stop a run defense. With Richardson in quarterback, it gives them a dual threat running because I think at this point they're going to trust Richardson's legs and they more his arm. So there's going to be a lot more running opportunities. Taylor's projected to get 23, 24 rushing attempts per game. When he's gotten 20 or more, his last 10 games, he's averaging 157 rushing yards per game when he's had 20 or more rush attempts. So I'm trusting him to get 70. And McCaffrey's line, you need to take advantage of now before it starts going way too far up. This is his second game back. This is a game where he has kind of cooked this team since he joined San Francisco. So I'm going to trust him to get 70 plus. He could potentially get 100. That might also be a play. I think 100 plus for both players right now is plus 800. So you can get 9-1 odds on them two to get 100 yards each. But my other probably one of my early bets we posted, it's one of my favorites. I took Packers -6 before the offensive coordinator change. It stayed the same mainly because of the recency of when these teams have changed quarterbacks and changed coaches, they have won their games. But if you look at them, they have not won by much. The Browns won by, I want to say it was like a touchdown against the Bengals. I'm not too sure off the top of my head. Saints only won by like 3. And the Panthers almost lost with Andy Dalton as quarterback, the first game he came in. And when Bryce Young came back, they barely won that last game. This is not those kind of teams. This is the Bears. We don't know what they're doing. Their quarterback does not seem to have the confidence in throwing. This is a Packers team who the way you beat them is through the air, and they don't have confidence throwing through the air. So I'll take the points. -6 and -6.5 is a key number because a touchdown difference in a game is the 4th most common result in the NFL. So I'm going to trust Packers -6.5 here. And my final one, I'll give you guys. Well, I have 2 actually, because I have to give Joe requested I do an anytime touchdown parlay today. So
nice.
These are both touchdown bets. I've talked about this guy for 3 weeks, so I'm sure Nick is tired of hearing me talk about this guy. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, anytime touchdown, plus 500. This guy has scored a touchdown in 3 of his last 4 games. He went from not getting a single target up to week 8. In the last 3 weeks, he's averaging 7 targets a game. This is why I was also down on Ridley. He's just going to chuck the ball downfield. Ikhine is there. I'm going to go 50 yards down the field and hope you throw it to me guy. So I'm going to trust him to get either one deep ball or one little 10-yard touchdown pass a day. I'm only putting like a couple of dollars on it. Don't go big on that one. But our anytime touchdown parlay, courtesy of Joe Winkle, he said it brought tears to his eyes when I showed him this yesterday. So we have Derrick Henry, who has scored a touchdown every single game this year. You have George Kittle, who has scored a touchdown in 58% of the games he has played against the Seahawks in his career. Seahawks are currently ranked 24th in yards, receptions, and touchdowns allowed to tight ends this season. And Jamar Chase, you got to feed the hot hand. Jamar Chase right now is the best receiver in the NFL. Does not matter who Harbaugh throws at him. Jamar Chase is going to get his touches. They're going to be targeting him in the end zone. And the way him and Burrow are playing, they're on another level right now. He's going to score. If you are on DraftKings or FanDuel, they both have anytime touchdown boosts. This play will get you up to plus 900. So 10-1 odds for Derrick Henry, Kittle, and Jamar Chase to score. You can round robin this, do however you want. Any 2 combinations of these will get you at least plus 150 to plus 200. And there we have.
Nice. I like it. Bravo. See, and you had time to talk there? Like you were able to.
I know. I had to remember how to breathe in the middle of talking again.
Yeah. No, that was good stuff. I like that. And the plus 500 for Westbrook-Ikhine, that is a juicy line right there.
Yeah, you can also take his reception line. It's at 2.5. I don't mind that either. But for a lot of my props, I use my partner Betalytics and I use props.cash. They both had him as the highest ranked player on Tennessee to score a touchdown this week outside in the wide receiver market. So that right there alone shows you his number. The odds are projected supposed to be around plus 300 based on the probability of him scoring. So you're getting a 200-point value right there.
Right on. I like it. All right. Well, we're going to go into one final break here, and then coming out of it, we will discuss, our QB1, do some rapid fire, QB1, RB1, and down the line, and then address some last-minute viewer questions as well. Stay tuned.
Do you love everything sports? So do we. That's why we shop at Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles. Atomic has everything you could ever want to blow up your collections. They have sports cards ranging from the 1980s to today, whether it's singles, wax packs, hangers, or boxes. They've got vintage hats, clothes, and collectibles from your favorite teams to widen your collection. Check out Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles today at 102 4th Street West, Milan, Illinois.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football. Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and Twitter, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
All right, I'm amped. Let's go. Yeah, that coach got me fired up. All right, here we go.
Back-to-back ads working. Let's go, baby.
yeah. We are firing on all cylinders right now. Let's get to Jacob's question real quick here. Pick 2. Our running backs here in full PPR. We've got Cook, Jacobs, Swift, Harris, Etienne, without Bigsby, of course. So we've got those 5 running back options. We got to pick 2. With their various matchups on the horizon. Of course, Swift, Harris has some pretty difficult matchups against opposing defenses there. Cook as well. So kind of across the board. But we did talk about Etienne earlier, how he's been really tough to predict. So I would say I would probably move him out if we got to pick 2 here. That's my personal opinion. I would probably go with Cook, because I do think there's going to be high scoring. I think he's going to get some work in the receiving game, especially this week against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then, the rest all kind of have tough matchups, but I would probably take Jacobs personally. I think Cook and Jacobs would be my picks. Yeah, same for you, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Jacobs and Harris. I think Cook's going to have a little bit of a harder time with the Chiefs defense. And plus, we've kind of seen when they're going into passing sets, they tend to put in the RB2 and the RB3 more than Cook, and they tend to lean to go to them. They've been getting a lot of touches too, I've noticed lately, like closer towards the end zone, which could kind of hurt Cook a little bit. As good as the Bears defense is, Jacobs is the only running back that touches the ball on that team. Yeah. He gets 20 to 25 touches per game. If he gets 2 yards per game, you're still getting a 40-yard game, which, I mean, obviously isn't what you want to look for Jacobs, but with Bigsby out, Ernest Johnson might get some more touches. That's the thing. Doug Peterson has done everything he can to not play Etienne.
Yeah,
and that's the problem, is Etienne could be the only running back on their roster, and they would find a way to have like Evan Ingram run the ball or run like a Navy fullback play, like something like that.
Yeah, Swift and Etienne on this list are the 2 most unreliable. I would say you don't know kind of what their workload's going to be. You don't know what they're going to look like. Harris, we know, is going to get carries, but Harris kind of is going to need a touchdown to be like a solid, viable play for you, I think, this week, especially if, they're going to be in third down a lot. Is this going to be more of a Jaylen Warren game? I don't know, but Harris, I would take over Swift and Etienne, no doubt. So it'd really come down to like him, Jacobs, and Cook. I just trust Cook to get more work potentially in the receiving game than Harris. So I think there's a little bit more upside there for Cook versus Harris. But I could understand the argument, especially if the Steelers, get to the goal line. Harris is going to command all of that.
Plus, you got to remember, Etienne might not be running the ball a lot. They're projected to lose by almost 20 points today.
Yeah,
as a 14-point spread. That's the thing with running backs. You want to take the games either the team winning by double digits, or the running backs that are going to be in close games. So I would rather just trust Harris in a dogfight to at least get like 40 yards.
Joshua asks, should I start CD, Shakir, and Cooks as my flex? Have Jennings, Reed, and Tillman on my bench?
I would swap Cooks for Tillman. That's my one pick. I think you got to remember with Jaden Reed too, is that he is probably the most impactful player on that in that wide receiver room. And this is a good game for him to get some more touches. So it's hard to predict with the with the Packers because you don't know who they're going to throw it to. It's like like the Walmart version of the Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs. You don't really know who they're throwing to, but someone's going to have a big game, and it's not the player you pick.
Yeah, Tillman's the guy that's for sure going to get the targets that you want, and you would think the production as well. I think he's a safer bet for sure. We've got one question. We kind of touched on this with Jacob's question as well, since he had both of these running backs in there. But I think I know, Dan, you didn't pick James Cook. You picked Harris over him. Would you pick James Cook over Swift, though, in this case?
I would say yeah. Yeah, and Cook's got a better matchup here. They're going to need the running game in the second half more than the Bears will.
Yeah, just like the Bears offense in general is probably one to just stay away from until we see otherwise. The only kind of sleeper I was thinking with the Bears for this week in terms of DFS would be, because he's so cheap now, is Cole Kmet. Like he has been absent entirely, right? But like he's always due. Earlier this year, a couple games, 20 points.
If the tight end is running 80% of the routes and is in 90% of the snaps, he's almost a must start each week. But not when Caleb Williams is your quarterback, at least this season.
Yeah, or just the coaching staff in general with the Bears, that's for sure. All right, well, appreciate the questions there from all of the viewers. Let's get into a rapid fire. Who we got for your QB1, RB1, wide receiver 1, and tight end 1 for the week?
Caleb Williams. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, did you say 31?
Right. I forget, how do you guys do this typically? Do we go?
Everyone
do we all
goes.
say our QB ones,
everyone goes position, and then we go to the next one.
Okay, cool. So QB1 for the week. Dan, I'll let you kick us off here.
I'm gonna go Brock Purdy this week.
I was kind of thinking that too. I'm looking at some of the matchups here. If I can't take him, I'll go. We'll go Josh Allen in a shootout.
Nice, I like that. I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with a wacky pick here. I'm gonna go with Justin Herbert. I'm gonna say that his efficiency peaks this week against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I think they're gonna open up the passing game there, and I can see Justin Herbert sneaking in a rushing touchdown. He's thrown off the legs a little bit over the last month. So let's go with Justin Herbert. I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit here, but I like this matchup, and I think Justin Herbert could have a really big week. All right, let's go RB1. I'll kick us off. I like this matchup a lot for Devon Achane personally against the Raiders. And he's the guy that can go off at any given week. Last week was kind of just like a middling effort, but the Raiders have just been brutal against running backs in the passing game, and also just their secondary's bad. And the Dolphins have shown, like, when they're kind of up, they're still willing to have Devon Achane in there as the running back instead of just having Raheem Mostert take the load the rest of the game. Achane's been more and more involved in the run game, regardless of circumstance. And so I think even if they get up early, Devon Achane's still going to have an opportunity. So I like him here in this play.
I'm gonna go Jonathan Taylor. I'm gonna rock with Jonathan Taylor still for a potential 100-yard game. I don't know. Something might be going on in that game because I just went to the FanDuel and they have the whole game locked right now for player props.
Which game?
That's him.
Jets Colts. I can't get a single player prop in right now for rushing.
Oh yeah, I was going to look at Jonathan Taylor, I think, and I couldn't find him.
Oh God, if he's out, I'm gonna be pissed.
Or just, I don't think I could see any Colts rushing stats or something.
Colts or Jets. Like I just went. If you go to the rushing page, it's all gone.
Can I say Saquon Barkley?
Okay. I was like, I thought this could be bad news. It said Devontae Adams is active, so that wouldn't impact that one. That just came down the wire from Ian Rappaport earlier this hour. But yeah, no, I'm not seeing any news right now coming out from the game. So yeah, but usually the betting markets know stuff before we do even. So, there you have it. Yeah, Brinks, who you got?
Let's see. I don't think anyone beat Saquon, but I'll take low hanging fruit and take Christian McCaffrey. Aaron Rodgers always owns the Bears. I feel like Christian McCaffrey owns the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's very true. And it'll be his like second game back, let's go. Let's take the wheels off. Wide receiver 1. I mean, hey, it's low-hanging fruit for a reason with Christian McCaffrey. I think it's low-hanging fruit here for a reason as well. I'm going Jamar Chase. Like, the guy has been on an absolute tear, and this matchup is rife with opportunity for him against the Chargers. So let's go. I think, Dan, you said the touchdown play. I think he scores a touchdown. I think he goes over 100 yards and probably gets more than a handful of catches as well.
I'm going to go Calvin Ridley just so I win on either side of what I said today. No, I'll say Zay Flowers. I think he's got a great matchup today.
Yeah. He could have an 8-catch day.
I'm feeling a George Pickens kind of day.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
I like it. George Pickens. Yeah, he's right now projected. I think ESPN has him projected as like the wide receiver 4 for this week. So yeah, I mean, it's ballpark. He's been rising. He's been rising up the charts over the last few weeks for sure. Tight end 1. This is always a fun one to kind of figure out and guess. TJ Hawkinson's been a little slow, to come back 2 weeks, and he's been ramping up. I'm going to say let's unleash TJ Hawkinson for this week. Tight end 1 against Tennessee. Let's lock it in. Or
I'll go Kittle. I think, like I said, I'm going to stay with my touchdown guys. This team does not guard the middle of the field now that they have everyone essentially healthy minus Ayuk. Purdy's second favorite target outside of Ayuk is George Kittle. So I think we're going to see a good 5-6 catches from him minimum.
Let's go with the hot hand. He started off dreadful, but he's coming on strong here late in the season. Mark Andrews.
Beautiful.
I thought you were going to say Kelsey for a second, and I was about to be like, oh.
We
got a couple more viewer questions. We got CD or Zay Flowers. Now, I know you picked Zay Flowers as your potential wide receiver 1 here. I don't know, though, if I could justify starting him over CD Lamb.
I would still start him with Cooper Rush in at quarterback. They did not look good last week.
No, it was bad. It was bad. I'll give you that.
And the Texans are going to have extra motivation after that game. So I would trust Zay.
You're
Flowers
still going
here.
Zay?
Zay Flowers has burned me so many times because every time I pick him is when he goes for like 2 catches, but this is not a game where he's going to go like 2 catches for nothing. Like this is a Zay Flowers.
Either 2 catches or 200 is what you're saying, depending on which side you're on.
Bro, I'll bet him, and it's just him on the sideline doing nothing. And then the days I don't, I turn on Red Zone and he's skipping through the end zone, like just having fun.
Trying to meet up with Deontay Johnson for the celebration.
Right.
In that revenge.
What do you think, Nick? CD or Zay Flowers? Who are you starting? It's just so hard to bench CD Lamb.
Yeah,
I know. I mean,
if you have both of these guys, who are your 3rd and 4th options?
Well, yeah, that's a good question too.
That's what I mean.
He probably went wide. He probably went double wide receiver to start his draft. It was just like, I'll buy down on running backs later.
He's got like Chase and CD or something like that.
Yeah.
Last year,
without a little more information, I don't know. I feel like I got to go
Zay. Side note, last year we did like a 5-man league just so like Lydia and my dad could have a league and they could get used to it. And so like Lydia had Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelce, and like AJ Brown and CD Lamb. And I remember she asked the question and Joe goes, "Who are you playing against?"
Yeah. What is this?
Can I join?
Oh, he said he has Puka and Marvin Harrison Jr. as well.
Yeah, you went 0 running back till round 10.
Yeah. We got Drake London or Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's an interesting one there. I think I'm going JSN though. He has been dominating targets lately. I know DK Metcalf is back, so that's going to cut into the target share there a little bit for JSN, but also with this matchup against the 49ers, like Geno Smith and company, they're going to have to air it out. JSN's become an increasingly more reliable target for Geno. So I personally would take that one, but it's very close. I could see arguments for either one of these.
Drake London's had such a good year too.
He has.
Yeah, but you know me and my Falcons. You know me and my Falcons. Whenever I like back a Falcon, they suck. So like my strategy this year was I've just tried to forget that Drake London is on my team, and when it's worked, he's played great. So Who's Drake London? That's my strategy. Is who's Drake London? I'll take London there. I think Gino's finding other targets besides JSN, and that's what's going to hurt him.
All right, so you got two out of three for London there. So I guess go with London on this one. He is the wide receiver 1 on his team, so I guess that there's something to be said for that too.
Can we talk about Darnell Mooney leaving the Bears and just becoming an absolute stud, though?
Really good.
I forgot he was in the league, and then I see he goes off for 100 yards like every week.
Yeah, I mean, leave it up to the Bears to have players work out after leaving. Just the case sometimes. But yeah, well, that's a good week 11 on tap for us. That does it for the viewer questions on the slate, and that does it for us here on For Fantasy's Sake. Nick, thanks for jumping in, man. Taking one for the team, coming on the show, talking shop. Appreciate having you here. And yeah, obviously, if you got any more questions, just be sure to hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Threads, wherever you consume your social media. Check us out on Facebook. Be sure to donate to Toys for Tots. We're still accepting donations. Please be sure to get in on the action there and help make a kid's day this upcoming holiday season. And we will see you back here next week for another great show. But until then, enjoy your Sunday slate of.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.